Super excited to be back and share another purpose, journey, and story. So excited to share our guest today, Cornelis. First of all, we just want to welcome you to the show and thank you for being here.
Thank you, Rose. This is an awesome opportunity. Thank you for inviting me onto this podcast. I'm really excited to share a little bit about me and you giving me that possibility.
Awesome. And the next question is a simple one. Where in the world are you?
Well, I'm in what's deemed to be the most remote city in the world, which is Perth in Western Australia. Um, and I think it's the most beautiful place on earth, but then I've never traveled outside of Australia. So I'm a little bit biased, but I love it here. I'm in Melbourne at the moment, doing some coaching. And yeah, so that's where I'm from. I've, um, I have seven children and four grandchildren um, that I love very dearly. And my passion is helping people.
Awesome. All right, so let's get straight to the passion. So I'm going to ask you to take us back to the beginning of where you kind of had those first aha moments and just take us through the breadcrumbs that have led you to where you are today in finding your purpose. So the floor is yours. Let's hear your story.
Cool. Thanks, Rose. Well, if I start at the very beginning, I was born about 95% deaf. So had a real interesting um, upbringing and in a Christian family. Also, I was terrified to go to school because of my deafness, and nobody knew I was deaf until I was in grade four. I stayed a grade, so I had 5 years in school before they discovered that I was deaf. So I was 10 years old, and that kind of encapsulated the beginning of how I interpreted the world. Whether it was to me, it was a dangerous place because I was always in trouble, and so it left a kind of a mark on me. And so going on, I pretty much failed school, got an apprenticeship, became a plumber. I've been did plumbing for 45 years and made it my career. And in on that journey, I built a bunch of businesses. So 20 years later into my business career, um, I got into retail shop and all sorts of things and lost everything. And that was a big moment for me because I met a business coach and that seeded the ideas of what I do today and what I've been doing for the last 6 years. And that was that it's so important to get people to help you with your perspective about business, about life, about goal setting, and about seeing the world in a completely different way. So you become aware that there's different ways of looking at it. And that might seem a little strange, but we run our lives on how much awareness we have about the world. And so from there, we had some family trauma. So we ended up in my family in counselling for 7 years. I studied counselling with my wife for a few years. And then I came across coaching, which is an upgraded version of NLP, and that really was a big pivot in my life because it showed me and made me aware that there was a very quick and real way to heal trauma and all the negative beliefs that I had been carrying for all these years through my life, even though I was successful and then I lost business, but generally I've been very successful. Um, and but always in a mindset of um, poverty, could I say? A mindset of not enoughness, a mindset of just getting by. Just like when I had the businesses, we were turning over about $2.5 million. But my mindset was so restricted that we were always only just making it. And so getting into coaching and getting that help broadens your whole perspective about what's possible. And the beauty is that everything is possible. And so going into coaching with a whole new understanding about life, that everything is literally possible. And I like to quote a few people like um, Donald Trump's son and Kerry Packer, the richest man in Australia, his son as well. Both of them have a similar message where they were born into leadership and they didn't learn to be a follower. They didn't learn to be a worker. They didn't learn that, you know, you go to school, you get a career, you go to uni, and you get a couple of degrees, and then you go and work for someone. They didn't experience that mindset, which is what the average person in the world learns, because that's what we go through. We go through the system, right? And the system is quite frankly designed to make you a worker. And so it's a massive big leap to become a follower, go from following to leading. And that's what coaching and that's what a business coach and all these other coaches can really do and change your mind, change your life, change your soul, change your spirit, because it gives you a whole new, beautiful outlook on life that, wow, like it's my dreams are possible. What I can help people is possible. The breakthroughs that people talk about that seem like fantasy are real. And so it's so powerful to be in a room with someone that can help you expand your thinking, that can help you really go through all the hardships and trauma. I've done a lot of healing. I tried to do a lot of self healing. I was in Amway. I was in a heap of pyramid speak because I did have 7 children, and it's not easy to, and they all went through private school. So it's not easy to fund all that. And so I was working 24/7, literally, for pretty much 30 something years, just so the kids could be in school, in the private school that we wanted. And, I, I wanted to give my kids and my family the best possible thing. And in doing that, without knowing what's possible about business, without knowing coaching, without knowing a different way of looking at things, and without knowing what real leadership is, and without all these things, you simply don't know. And that's the beauty of where I'm now. Done 6 years study, um, so I'm fully qualified coach, fully qualified NLP coach, um, and doing actually an extra course now in deep diving into inner child work and all that sort of stuff. And I've been doing that for quite a while as well. And it just opens up doors. It just opens up your mind. It just opens up your heart and soul, which is really where we all connect. We all want to connect on a heart and soul level, and that's what's really powerful about doing what I do. And my next step is that I've started public speaking, which is another way that we can help people um, see, experience, and be aware that there's opportunity, that they are more, that they are enough, that everybody's wonderfully, beautifully unique, created in God's image, and so powerful. We have so much more available within us than we know, and even when we do start learning, there's even more than that. So it's really a pathway and a step up to learning your greatness, learning your inner spirit, and connecting with it, and understanding that you're just an incredibly unique individual, and everyone has that opportunity. And so I'm now a coach, and yeah, that's pretty much my life story. I now help business owners. I help um, trauma situations, and I help, yeah, anyone that um, really wants to step up from where they are, and just don't know the next step. And that's what we try and do. We help people take the next step and the next step and the next step.
Awesome. Well, first, thank you so much for sharing your journey and your purpose story with us. From what it sounded like, we're celebrating that you went from deaf to determined to deliver transformations. And now that's what you get to do. You get to help people take those next steps and turn their, obstacles into, their superpowers and their uh, transformations for themselves. And that ripple effect is that they get to help other people. So much to unpack in your story. I loved that what you were talking about of just the first step of awareness, just being aware of what is possible and learning to lead and switching that from following to lead, because in most of the school systems, like you're saying, is that we're trained to be worker bees, or and so to switch, coaching really does help that perspective shift of, hey, I don't have to follow other people, I can forge my own way and lead. And it is a really really huge shift, so that's really awesome that you get to help people switch that switch that perspective. What would you say is some of the, like, if you could go back into when you were working and, going through just the 30 years of just working, 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 what would you tell yourself? What steps would you tell yourself to take first?
Yeah, I think the most important step that I would take is that your time is so important. Your time with the people that you care about and that you love is the most important thing in life. And I'm certain everyone knows that, and pretty much everyone that I work with, or all the people that I have worked with, when you sit down and look at their values, people's top value is family. And the thing is, for most of us, that's only a goal. It's not actually a value, even though we want it to be a value, because we want it to be a value. The thing is, what we spend all our time on is our true values. And so if you're working, 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 and I hear you because I've been there. I've worked 20 hours a day for year in, year out because I thought I had to. So I think the biggest thing is to learn that to structure your business from day one, that you get your time. You get your time back. That you spend, there's no such thing as quality time. There's only time. Quality time doesn't exist. So your children and your partner are only going to spell love Time, and there's no quality in it. And I
Uh,
think we've been kind of led into this whole, the American and the Australian dream or the world dream is to buy your house and you get caught up in the loan, and you want the best for your family, so you buy the best you can, and you get caught in this whole system of being in a loan where you have to work for, you might only get a 25-year loan, but everyone knows that in 20 years' time, you're actually going to upgrade because you might have a couple of more kids than you expected to have originally. And you just want a better house because you've worked so hard. And so you get caught up into the 40-year loan cycle, which means that your whole 40 years of your life, you've worked to pay the loan instead of living life and being spending a lot more time with your family. And so my advice to anyone that wants to start up a business or even are not in a business or whatever situation you are is to look at your time first. Put time in your diary first. Book in your birthdays, book in your anniversaries, book in um, everything that you know that you want to spend time with, that makes your life important and makes the people in your life know that you value them above everything, which you do, but it's not displaying in your actions.
That is such valuable advice. I completely agree that it's so easy to spend decades, trying to make it do everything for other people, but when really all they want is time, you're actually robbing them of all of those hours. No amount of money can replace a parent in the house, and, like you're saying, just that time to spend with them. So awesome. Well, that also gets to the next question you kind of said about family. What are some of the values that you really feel have kept you going and that you prioritize in your life now?
Yeah, something that I've always had. I'm fourth, fifth generation Reformed Christian, and so we've got a high set of standards, as in where you spend your time and everything, but not during the week. Only like I've never worked a Sunday. On occasion, I've helped people out, but not never been kind of paid work on a Sunday because, and I really look back at it, and if it wasn't for that, um, I've never had a nervous breakdown, which even my coach when I lost all my four businesses, he's looking at me and he's going like, all of my clients who've gone through what you've just gone through are in hospital with ulcers, they're on medication, and and you're sitting there in the chair like cool as a cucumber. He goes like, I don't get it. I says, well, I don't work Sundays, so I actually have had every Sunday off. Like I don't answer the phone. We don't watch TV. Um, it's a Sunday without pretty much without technology. It's a whole day, and I've been very fortunate. It wasn't my own making. I just was born into the tradition, and I've upheld that tradition of going to church, and holding that belief true. I just work 24/7 the other 6 days of the week, which is not good. I don't recommend it. It's the worst thing you could possibly do. But sometimes, if it's a season. We all have seasons. If you need to do it for a couple of months to start, go ahead and do it. But make sure you plan it and go, this is how much, this is the season that we're going to do it. So, and I knew nothing about planning before I got my coach. I plan? Yeah, I planned working and stuff, but I didn't know about future planning. I didn't know about how important goal setting is. Um, and coming from where I was brought up, you as a devout Christian, my father, he had no financial IQ. Yeah, he worked. I saw him work like I did. Like um, unfortunately, we didn't get much of his time. I got eight brothers and sisters, and we didn't get hardly any of his time because he was working to keep us, and we always had bread and butter and meat on the table, but we had no dad, because he was working, and unfortunately that was, it's a tribal cycle. We often follow or go completely opposite to what our fathers do. So um, it is a family thing. We learn what we see, we learn what we breathe, we learn what we there's a good reason why if you're born in an Asian culture, you're going to think it's normal to have maybe hot, spicy food, what your tradition is. For me, I come from a Dutch Australian culture, so steak and beans and potatoes is pretty much or meatloaf and so is pretty much a stable food. We never, I don't. It wasn't until I was probably left home that my mum started cooking rice because
Wow.
because
Yeah.
our culture just didn't have that in it,
Hmm.
you know, and so we learned so much from our immediate friends and families, and so yeah, what has saved me is not working every Sunday. So the Christian principle. I'm not going to go into whether you should do it Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. The whole calendar, if you look back, there's no direct correlation to ancient calendars that I've seen, and there used to be 13 months, and there's lots of different variations. So I think it's important to honour the day that you want to honour, and no disrespect for anyone else honouring whatever day they do. But I think it's really, really important to have that one day of peace, of being with the family, um, resting because you need it. And I think that that's principle, um, and also trusting God. Like, um, I think unfortunately there's a lot of disconnection with a higher power, whatever you want to call it. For me, it's God and Jesus, and that has given me a strength that my coach and a few other people haven't seen in a lot of other people. So I don't think I'm any better than anyone. I just have a trust in God, who I know is all powerful, created all things. So if He's created all things, He's strong enough to keep me safe.
Absolutely. And yeah, I love how what you're sharing about your values, it ties in again to that time, you know. So now you're sharing about how you've kept yourself healthy, how you've kept a balance, and then of course the most important part is having your belief, you know, to really as your foundation. I see that just having that day off. Is there any rules, like do you go on vacations? What is this? There's no devices, no movies you said, or TV. What is that kind of, what are the main things that keep you clear for that day? Like do you sometimes take vacations? Does it, is there, what are the rules of like what you try to avoid? Just mainly, you know, devices, any kind of work. What are the things that you do try to do and the things that you avoid doing on that day off?
Yeah. So Sundays is gives you time. Number one. So you've got, it's free time. So there's no work. So I don't do gardening. I mean, I might pull out the odd weed. Hope I don't get shot. You know, like um, but Sunday, and the Bible's, Jesus said, you know, the Sunday was made for man. Man wasn't made for the Sunday. So there's a whole range of things that you do. But for me, traditionally, I go to church. Our church has two services, so it's available for us to go twice on a Sunday, and um, we don't really turn it into a day of pleasure. I've never been to. I would never go to. I wouldn't go to a football match or watch car racing. I don't go out. Um, However, on that precepts, I would definitely go to the beach or would go to one of the local dams and have a picnic. I'd definitely go out in the bush and do a walk in nature. Um, I think connecting to the earth. Um, I like to walk barefoot on Sundays, so I'm grounding, um, and all these things I've been doing for years and years. I didn't all the studies now, the health. Oh, you know, you're releasing all the negative magnetic field when you're grounding. It only takes a couple of minutes or a couple of seconds, actually, apparently. So I've been doing all these things without knowing the science behind it, but I think it's been part of what's kept me healthy. And um, I, I've, I've I've been in hospital to get my hearing fixed when I was 10 years old, but other than that, I've never been in hospital. I've never been sick. So um, um, yeah, I think I've been fortunate. My parents, I've always had home cooked meals. I was brought up. You take your lunch in an esky. For us, it's an esky. I think you guys call it a cooler. But you know, I still use an esky today, where it's a cool box. You put a couple of ice box in there. You make your own lunch. You cook your own beef or your chicken, or you take a bit of fruit. You stick it in the box, and I know all the delis and all the shops would be horrified at that idea, but it's more than just being penny wise. It's wholesome food because you know what you're eating. You're not getting and like shops have got to make money, so who knows what they cook their food in, and I think your food, what you feed yourself, the same as what you put in the bank, um, there's a correlation to how well your life with. If you're going to not put money in the bank, if you don't put good food in your body, it's going to amount to about the same thing.
Yeah, well, first I love the, you know, just the clear parameters of what you do on that Sunday. and how, you know, inadvertently you're actually healing yourself by doing grounding and things. I think that spending time in nature is so invaluable. Whether, you know, we're lucky to have over 100 natural springs here. So just going into the water is so healing. And I can notice a complete difference going into a pool or going into the natural springs. Very, very different. One is healing and one you feel like icky by the end of the, you know,
Yeah.
the swimming session. So, and then yeah, what you're sharing about you know, not having processed foods, and something that I really believe in is also when you're eating food that's cooked out, what also goes into that is the energy of the person making it. You know, so if they're having
Wow.
if they're having a rough day, and you know, because energy is transferable. So, you know, when we were little, we would go around selling Christmas uh, well, there was some kind of Christmas breads that we would make, and we would sell around the neighborhoods to all the businesses, and we would sing a little song. We would say all the ingredients, and then we would say the last one, and it's made with lots of love. And you know, and it was true. Like, we were putting so much love into these, you know, Christmas little cakes, and uh, I feel it. I feel when someone is putting love into something, and I can also feel when it's just devoid of any feeling, or even the opposite of, you know, it's, you might not even notice it, but it's so subtle, but it's very, very real, that whatever we're putting in. So that's why having home cooked meals, it's not just about the ingredients, it's also about the energy that's being, you know, put into, you know, that meal. So like you're saying, you know, not only cutting of corners of, you know, ingredients and from organic to, you know, whatever they're putting in, but it's also the energy of all those workers that is going into your food, which is going into your body. And so, yeah, it's a very simple thing to do, but I like that, just, you know, having your pack of food for the day. My mom hasn't eaten at a restaurant in probably almost 60 years, and she never gets sick. So it's definitely, you know, it's a proven thing that when we eat things that are not made for us, uh, the results are that we get sick. And when we do find what is actually good for our body and what is good for us, that we can live a healthy life, and it's not as complicated as people may think. But it does require some discipline and giving up some things that you may love and be attached to. Like for me, that's sugar, you know, so giving up some of my favorite desserts or something, but to live a quality life, that's worth it, to be able to spend more time, quality time with my family, rather than, you know, what happens in America here is just that the older people get, then they end up in older, you know, hospice homes because they have all these sicknesses from all the sugar and processed foods they've eaten their whole lives. And now they're on all these medications, and it's just not a great quality of life by the end. And it's so easy to avoid that. I saw the stark difference between my father and my mother. My father was, you know, ate a very unhealthy lifestyle and was not healthy until the end. And my mom is still here. She'll be 80 next year, and she is, you know, has more energy than me, I feel some days. So yeah, so awesome. Well, thank you for sharing all this. I want to hear a little bit about what your future vision of how, you know, you get to help people, and what that looks like, who you help, and how that will amplify in the future. What is your vision for helping people?
Yeah, I guess my vision is helping people on stage because I've now developed a keynote speech which is silence to significance, and that just shows a pathway and gives people a picture of hope and a pathway to you can do it too. You know, you really can. I also have a business coaching program called Heartbreak to Unshakable. and that's aimed at people like myself. I've been through it, through some heartache and disconnection, and just reaching out to business owners where men don't like to share that they're struggling, and I'm here to allow the help without any shame, without any judgment. I've been through it, and I just helped a guy this evening just before we stopped in, which is an impromptu in the foyer of the hotel, um, and just connecting that it's okay. We feel us men. Yes, we've got a tough exterior, but we've got a heart and soul that is actually very fragile, can be easily broken, and we've been told all our lifetime to tough it out and to not cry, and that's a tough gig for men, and I come with compassion, kindness, and a pathway to help reconnect your spirit, your soul after heartbreak, or even hopefully before heartbreak, before something heartbreaking happens, and reconnect with your time, reconnect with your system, reconnect with your goals and your dreams and your family, and that's my passion, is to help business owners, who are maybe struggling. Things are not happy, or not the best at home. There's a bit of tension, and to help really reconnect themselves, the men, to who we are as a beautiful, unique being with feelings and love and hope, um, and vulnerability and sexuality, and being a real person. Yeah, reconnecting with who we are. That's my passion.
Awesome. All right. Well, what is the easiest way that someone can reach you? What's the easiest way to get in touch with you, to connect with you?
Uh, yeah, so you can go to my landing page, which is corneliszoom.com, and you can book a 30-minute free coffee chat or a um, cup of tea with Cornelis, and or cup of coffee, and yeah, have a chat and see where we're at, and maybe we only need a few chats, or maybe we can work together, and you never know what happens.
All right. Awesome. And I'll ask you for what are some final words of wisdom that you have just to share, wrapping this up today?
I think the really profound thing is that we're all living beings. We're not living doings. And to capture that we are living beings, and we have feelings, and we have hopes, and we have dreams, we have love, we have compassion, and we have forgiveness, and to share that with one another, because it's really, really profound. And I know it's a bit of a, everybody's hanging off what's happened to Charlie Kirk, but he brought that message of compassion. He brought that message of we are all connected. You know, we're spirit bearers. We have a heart and soul, and so allow yourself to connect. Allow yourself to be a alive, feeling human being.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for sharing your journey today, and really excited to hear how this goes for you. We'll check back in maybe a few months or a year and share again with our audience. So thank you so much, Cornelis. It's been an awesome pleasure and honor to hear your story today.
Thanks, Rose. I really appreciate you giving me your time, and I hope, my story gives other people hope. So that's the plan. Thank you so
Absolutely.
much.